All right, we are live. Let me double check that it's working over here. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to a UFC 229 edition, Creating Alpha and Daily Fantasy MMA. My name is Brett Apley. Most of you guys know me as BB Bomb, and I'm here with two very special guests. Usual co-host, Mr. Sun Tzu. Joe, welcome to 229 Fight Week. How's it going?
Oh, man, I am excited. I'm happy for a number of reasons. One is, I did a pretty vociferous rant last week against Chase Sherman, and I would have had to eat so much crow. And I couldn't imagine anybody picking Chase Sherman. I played 150 lineups, and I had one Chase Sherman lineup. So and then I find out that my boy broke his hand in that fight. Not Chase. His opponent broke his hand, and he still was able to finish him. So one, I'm happy about that. Not that I really killed it last week. I didn't play any cash. So it was all GPP for me last week. So I had I lost some money last week. I'm so looking forward to the contest this week. We've got some female fights. We've got, obviously, that Irishman is fighting that Russian guy. We've got all this going on. The highest ever contest on DraftKings for MMA. I am upset that we lost a fight, which means now that we got 12 fights, at least as of now. So we could be looking at some ties. But I'm pretty excited. Oh, one more thing. And I'm surprised how many likes my UFC main event, my UFC 230 main event analysis tweet got. Man, I got so many hits on that tweet. And I did it as a joke, it was kind of a spontaneous thing. I'm still getting likes on that tweet. I'm like, holy shit.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And before we get any further, I do want to welcome our second co-host on the show, Luke Vertical. You might know him at Luke Gowans on Twitter. It's been a while, but he's been on the show many times. Vert, it's good to see you. How's it going?
It's been a little bit. I'm ready to go for this. So I've been waiting a long time. I got a lot of buddies that are Conor fans, and I want to rub them and Khabib smoke them. It's going to feel good.
I feel like we have no choice but to get right into the main event here. That is what's carrying this card, right? Khabib versus Conor. That is the reason why we're seeing $500,000 worth of prize pools, $100,000 to the winner of the $10. Just great contest all around. 7 qualifiers. Joe, let's start with you. What are we doing with the main event this week? Is it an all-in play? Are you going 50-50? Do you have a strong stance? What are you doing?
First of all, I think you could probably go 80%, maybe 90% main. I don't know that you need to go 100% all in at the main event, because I do see some opportunities, in the undercard where there could be some significant scoring. So I don't know that you need to go all in. I'm obviously going to have shares of Conor. I don't know what the exact breakdown is yet because I'm not done with my lineups, but I am taking somewhat of a stance on Khabib. With that said, I'll probably have 30% maybe Conor, maybe a little higher when everything is said and done. Obviously, there's some price value in Conor. And also, we don't know what that line is going to look like, that betting line, as we get closer to, the fight with all that Irish money coming in. And that's why if you really like Khabib to bet and you haven't bet the fight already, I would probably wait. I would probably wait a little bit, wait for that Conor money to come in. And then if you really like Khabib, wait until Saturday morning and then maybe go in and bet that fight.
Cough, cough. There's 6 figures coming in about Saturday, about 3 p.m. on someone.
Ooh.
Are you sure it's not going to be on a prop? Are you sure it's going to be?
I'm pretty sure it's on a person.
All right.
Oh, wow.
How sure are you? Because
you have the same thing? Oh, maybe I'm not as sure.
We'll talk about it off the pod, but I mean, I think I expect a lot of the sharps are going to be on Khabib. I expect sharp money will come in on fight doesn't go to decision. That's only minus 300 right now. I would be pretty surprised to see but the thing is the public money will come in on McGregor. That's what Joe mentioned.
Wait for the line to drive down.
If you are looking to bet Khabib, with these guys, I would wait until the end of the week. I expect the line to tighten a bit, but Yeah. So what about you? Is this a situation where if you really like a guy, you're just going to go super heavy on him, or do you still think it makes sense to hedge a bit?
I think that the ownership will be so skewed because of the public that there is very good merit to just full fading and just ride the dragon. I mean, just let it go.
Fading Conor.
I think there's good merit to it, knowing his ownership's going to be overly inflated.
That's bold.
Yeah, see, I've been thinking about the ownership a lot, and like I honestly don't think Conor's going to be that much more popular than Khabib. I would expect both guys are more than 40%.
I don't know if Khabib will get there. I think he might stay under 40.
I just feel like he's DraftKings gold too. It's not like
gold.
It's not just the situation of the fight. It's like look at his box scores. He hasn't scored less than like 95 points in his last 6, 7, 8 fights. Yeah.
And yes, Brett, the fight is stackable in cash.
I don't think it's the worst play.
I mean, I actually did my cash lineup within 30 seconds of salaries dropping, and I may make one tweak to that lineup, but I'm probably not gonna. I am gonna use the stack.
You can go make your cash lineup in about 60 seconds right now if you just pull up odds. Yep. Everything fits so easily.
Yeah. And that's my fear is that there's going to be a lot of ties. Also, I don't know if you saw it, Vert, or if you got in, but for the first time they had, or the first time in recent memory, they actually had a 250 double up.
I saw that. MMA. I think it's still open. I didn't take it yet.
I got into that.
Yeah, I saw you, Fireball, and someone else in there.
Geez, we all take each other's money. I mean,
let's look at this card in ranges, because
I think that's a good way to go at this.
Yeah. I think with the O'Malley fight being canceled, that's going to affect large field tournaments, and we can try and talk about that. But let's look at this top range here from 9K and above. With O'Malley being taken off the card, you got Ferguson at 9.3K, Luque at 9.4K. How much do you think you're going to force those guys into your lineups, and how do you rate Luque as a play in comparison to Ferguson? Because to me, it's interesting. Like, I really like Ferguson. I like his pressure. I like his volume. It's a pretty good matchup, but he's 9.3K and he's only like minus 360 on the betting line. And then you got Luque, who's only $100 more and is currently minus 900 with a minus 270 line inside the distance. I don't know that the ownership is going to reflect how big of a difference those two are in theory. In theory, Luque is just so much better of a play, even though he's still a bit more boom or bust. But are you going to try and jam those guys in at all, or do you think targeting the lower 9K range is acceptable?
Well, if you want to put 2 9K guys in there, you're going to have to, in all likelihood, put at least 2 7K guys in there, right? Which means you're going to take 2 dogs, right? So there's a strategy to that. But again, I am with you 100%. I think, look, I love Ferguson. I think he could beat Pettis even on a bad knee. I think people are making a lot out of the Pettis victory over Chiesa, which great victory. Okay, we know Chiesa had problems with the cut. There was some narrative to that fight. I'm not ready to like re-endorse Anthony Showtime Pettis yet as a top 5 lightweight. So I do think there was some narrative there. So if the videos that granted they're self-posted videos, but if the videos that Tony is posting of himself and his wackadoo training is any indication, his knee is in good shape.
Fine.
Because I don't know people with 2 good knees that could do some of the shit that he's been doing on his training tweets. So you got to like Tony. It's just I think Luque's much safer.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo was saying how Ferguson has like really upped his conditioning for this camp. I think in part because if Conor or Khabib fall out, Tony would step in for the main event. So he's got to be prepared. Yep. I'm personally not worrying about the knee. I still think Ferguson, knee or not, it's a good matchup for him. But Luke, considering your, Mr. Odds value in a sense, are you is it worth playing Ferguson when you can pay up for Luque at $100 more?
Man, The problem is I don't think Luka is going to get the ownership he deserves.
Right.
I feel like he's gonna go under-owned to what he should be. I mean, I don't know. He scores
just
well.
Because Ferguson's a big name, right?
Just because Ferguson's a name, and like no one knows this guy. Like, this is a very public card. Like, there's no other way around it.
Well, let's talk about that though. Let's talk about that as a general theme. Like,
all right,
what do you think in the $10? Okay, which is going to have, what is it, 30-something thousand, 35,000 entries.
I think.
Well, what do you think the mix is going to be between sharps, like guys who, like you would, like guys who get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and play fucking Singapore and South Korea cards? You know, what percentage is going to be those guys that play every week versus like casuals who are going to throw lineups in for the, like, you know, you got 35,000 entries. You think 60, 70% is going to be like sharps?
I think we got to break it down a little farther. I think we got to go like from like sharp, like 5 o'clock Singapore to like casual, like 2 to 3 lineups every card. And not two to three, like $20 every card to like the casual coming in for just this card.
I mean, the people who wake up and play those 5 a.m. cards, that's just such a small percentage. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
like
for sure, less than 5%.
Maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration, but guys who play week in and week out.
You said that, I'm like, I gotta go 5. I gotta go 3 groups here, then not 2. There's no way.
I mean, it's hard to judge. What has been the normal player pool for this contest? Like 15,000 people. 15
to 17 to 18 for a pay-per-view card, you know, where there's a $30,000 first prize.
So you got to think the increase from that to
is mostly casual, then, right?
Right, mostly casual. So I would say, I mean, the vast majority of that 35,000 will be casual to,
like, I'd say
at some points, you know,
60 plus.
Yo, for sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I had someone reach out to me, and I'm not going to say who, but they reached out to me and they said, "Hey, would you bankroll me on, like, you know, 3 to 5 lineups for the $10 contest?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, "You're a good player. Do you really think you're going to get the exposure you need, right, by playing 3 to 5 lineups in the $10?" I said, "I'll tell you what. I will PayPal you $80 and put 20 lineups, right, in the $4 contest, right?" I said, "That's a $3,000 first prize. Okay, put 20 lineups in that contest, right?" But, you know, I just think based on that, we are going to see a lot more people who might usually only play cash or, you know, single entries or 3 entries that are going to, just like the Millie Maker in the NFL, right? You're going to throw in some lineups into that $10 contest because, look, that's our Millie Maker. Let's be real, right? Like, we've never had $100,000 first prize. Now, I'd be shocked if one person won it because a lot of weird shit would have to happen. Yeah.
Well, let's continue with this theme then. What would be your advice to people who maybe don't normally play, maybe just who normally play a lineup or 2, but are now taking this tournament more seriously? What are some things that they should take into consideration when trying to beat out 35,000 people?
Okay, you got to play a minimum of 10 lineups, and even that's too small, right? I mean, again, there's going to be guys like myself, like Vert, who are going to max enter. You know, we'll put 150 lineups in. But look, I'm not telling. Look, people can see. They're going to go on. They can see how many lineups you put in. It's no, like, all you got to do is click on entrance, and you can see who's putting what in. There's a number next to your name, right? So, you know, we're going to put in, and we're going to spread, right? We're going to have our cores, and we're going to spread. You got to put in a minimum of 10 lineups. If you're going to play 1 or 2 lineups, in all honesty, you might as well treat it like you're going to treat a quick pick on Mega Millions or Powerball, where just go with some wacky outcomes, because that's your only chance. Like, you know, if you're going to put in an optimal lineup and you're playing 1 lineup and you're going to put in an optimal lineup into a $10 contest, you're chasing ROI. I mean, you're not looking to actually try to win that contest. So I would say start with a minimum of 10 lineups. Give yourself some exposure, maybe 80% exposed to the main event one way or the other, depending on which side you like, or have equal exposure. And then, you know, fill in the blanks from there. But you gotta don't think you're gonna hit it with 3 to 5 lineups unless you're just playing some wacky shit.
Bert?
I had something really good. Here we go. Joe, so speak for yourself on the whole spread. I don't spread. I play very concentrated. I take stands. I take big stands. I don't care.
You do.
I'll pick who I think is the best plays, and I'll play the best plays until I can't stand anymore, and I'll play new plays.
And look, I respect that, and I will say the one time that I won that contest, it was with a lineup I didn't even know I had.
Yeah,
because I played that lineup in 2 contests, the $1 and the $8, and that was it, right? So it's like, and I didn't even know until after the fight was over that I was in contention to actually win that prize. So I try to get some exposure across the board. I will play a core. I just won't play as tight a core as you play.
Yeah, taking risks is always an interesting topic because whenever I've won tournaments, it's almost always been because I've gone like 100% on a certain fighter, like even as an underdog. Like
you had a big read on, right?
Yeah, like Robert Whittaker against Jacare. It comes to a bunch of Robert Whittaker fights.
Like Robert Whittaker versus Brunson.
And like when I'm giving advice, like, you know, my advice is don't go 100% in on this guy because, like, honestly, I'm not 100% confident. But sometimes taking a risk can be beneficial as long as you understand that your guy can lose, and if your guy loses, you're screwed. But I don't think there's a problem with taking risks. Just in general, I think lineup construction is very important. I would leave like at least $300 on the table with up to that. I haven't looked at lineups, but up to 1,500.
Some of our guys, not our guys, but some of our friends, bank like lineups with $3K left.
Yeah,
OB, like famously, like that was incredible.
Yeah, don't feel like you need to spend all the money, and the more money you spend, especially if you're playing all these odds values and the main event, and you're jamming in Tony Ferguson, like you're not being sneaky. People are going to have these lineups, so think about ownership, think about leaving money on the table, and also think about, you know, when you're spreading, because I do think you should spread out a little bit. And when you're spreading out, I think leverage is pretty important. Like one fight is that I think, I mean, it's still Wednesday, right? We usually do this on Friday. My reads will still get better as the week goes on. But for example, like Dominic Reyes is someone who I expect to be a popular target for obvious reasons. He's a high upside play.
He doesn't really fit well in lineups.
He's 8.9, right?
He's only 8.9K. How can he not fit well?
It's a weird
because you can't play him and you can in theory, but him and 2 9K guys is just probably not going to work.
Sorry to cut you off, but there's a lot of good problems. There's a lot of good value right below him, and there's a lot of better, like clearly better right above him too. So he's kind of in no man's land.
I don't know about clearly better, but
I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's that much great value below.
Not as far as DK goes, but like as far as like actual just line value.
Yeah,
I feel like.
But anyway, knowing a guy is going to be popular. For example, I think Reyes is going to be popular. Targeting, even if you like Reyes, targeting some Ovince St. Preux as like a leverage play. Some of those things make sense because if all the chalk hits, if Reyes hits, you know, Khabib. The Tony Martin as a big odds value, Tony Ferguson, like you just basically have no chance to win this tournament by yourself. And so in this situation with 35,000 people, definitely think about lineup construction. Let's move on to the mid-range, which it sounds like Vert, you do like this mid-range quite a bit this week.
We got to define like. I like the value on it.
Who specifically are you looking at?
Kunitskaya? I don't know. Yana and Ladd are the obvious ones that stick out right away.
See, I'm on Evinger, but that's fine.
Oh, here, I'm gonna let Joe go. Joe, go for it.
I think of the again. You guys know, and look, I've been called from time to time the Chick Whisperer, and in the RotoWire consensus. You know, all the RotoWire, all the guys who participate in MMA for RotoWire give their main event picks, and I was told I was the only one who picked Waterson. But anyway, so I think of the 3 fighters, I think Yana has probably got the best chance for a finish. And the one bet that I have, which is a parlay, the second leg of a parlay with Jan Blachowicz, is Tanya Evinger. Now, I should have waited because I could have gotten better number on Evinger.
Parlay?
Yeah, I parlayed Jan, and I couldn't believe, honestly, when the numbers first came out, I couldn't believe that Evinger and Ladd were essentially pick 'em. I couldn't believe, and as it turned out, I was right because like Ladd became a bigger favorite.
Yeah.
But,
so why are you so high on her?
I like it. Look, I think Ladd is a good prospect. I don't think she's fought anybody that's given her remotely a challenge in the UFC. I thought she was good in Invicta, but they really managed her. Evinger has fought everybody. Yes, she's older. She lasted 3 rounds with Cyborg. She's got a lot of tricks. She's a veteran.
Her face punched in.
Well, yeah. Look, I get it. I mean, I think that Ladd is a great prospect. I've seen every one of her fights. I've probably seen more of her fights than I've seen Tanya Evinger. Evinger, well, let's be honest. The reason why she had not gotten into the UFC sooner is fairly obvious. Like, there's only one person who cannot be pretty that the UFC promotes, and that's Cyborg. You know, Evinger does not have that look that the UFC likes to promote, right? She's not a Tatiana Suarez, right? She doesn't have that look, right? It took her
join Joe Brothel.
Well, okay. It took her a long time to get into the UFC. I do like her. So my 3 female picks, I might as well give them out. I like Waterson. I think it's going to be a close fight. Could be one of those split decision deals. Herrig has been money for me. I've loved. Look, this is a great fight. It's too bad there has to be a loser. I really like, though, my favorite pick of all the women's fight that falls into that mid-value is Yana. I really think Yana could get a finish. I'm going to say second to third round because Landsberg usually has 1 round to fight in her. But I could definitely see Yana getting a finish in the second round.
I'm also pretty heavy. I haven't built stuff yet, but I'm pretty confident in Yana here. I really think she's gonna. I mean, I don't think Landsberg's have anything for her.
Now this is it for her. Again, just like I made a joke about Alex Chambers, how she got a vacation in Brazil for less than 5 minutes worth of work. I really do think that this is probably Landsberg's last fight in the UFC.
Oh, and with her line moving up to -210, I would expect Kunitskaya to be fairly popular. What
is she, 8.5K? 8.5?
8.5. I wonder if she's in her cash lineups.
Yeah.
The Ladd Evinger fight is interesting to me because I like Evinger because similar to Alan Patrick, she's got to get the takedown. She doesn't really do much of anything else.
Yep.
That also concerns me because she doesn't really do much of anything else. And Ladd is a decent wrestler and has more striking. And so I don't know that Evinger will just take her down and dominate her on the ground. But if she is going to win, that's probably how it's going to happen. And so I don't mind targeting Evinger in that fight, especially because she's probably going to be lower owned now. Let's talk about some underdogs here. Is there anyone that jumps out to you, especially in maybe not the lower tier, but
Juicy Formiga. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I think a lot of people are going to be on him.
I wish his value wasn't getting so good.
Yeah, the problem there is, and look, there is a few issues with what he does, right? He's not a prolific striker. He needs to get the fight down. And he does not set up a lot of his takedowns with, high volume striking.
No.
So all of his scoring is going to come from getting the fight down. Now, I honestly thought Joe B won that last fight against Pettis. I thought it was close, but I thought he probably won the fight. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a bad day for the Pettis brothers. Formiga's got some juice. I mean, look, this is no surprise. I mean, people are looking at Formiga. There are people picking him. Tony Martin a little bit. Greg Maynard.
Let's talk about Tony Martin. and I'll go to you. What should we do with Tony Martin? Because he's one of, if not the best odds value on the card. He could be a pick'em by fight night. And cash games, obviously, we're targeting him. I would want some exposure to him in tournaments. However, it feels like a spot that, based on his ownership of that, considering his odds value, he's just going to be too popular for what he can really produce.
I mean, the question is, then where else can you really go in there? And that's where you have to figure that out if you're not going to go to Martin. Like, I mean,
well, like you go to Lewis or Ovince St. Preux in theory, right around him.
You really want to
high upside.
There's Maynard too. I think Maynard's actually pretty live. St. Preux. I mean, Ovince St. Preux is like, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he can handle what it's going to be brought at him. I don't think he can handle it.
There's some narrative too on Tony Martin, right? So second camp at American Top Team, right? A lot of times it takes a fight in a new camp to settle in. Obviously, plenty of good partners to train with. Wrestlers, which is LaFlair's bread and butter. Not that it's important, but I heard that he is the current partner of Harrison. Who in 3 years is going to fight Cyborg.
Geez, no wonder his odds are getting better.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if she can cut to 145, that is, she'll fight Cyborg. Maybe they'll do a catchweight fight at like 160. In any case, yeah, I think Martin's going to be popular. I think Lewis and OSP are probably more GPP type plays. In that lower range.
I don't want anything to do with Lewis.
That fight. I went into it really wanting to bet Volkov because I feel like it's a great stylistic matchup for him. But Volkov has this, like, if you go back, like in theory, Volkov's this long, rangy striker who, if he plays that kind of game, he should just piece Lewis up. But then you go back and watch him fight like Timothy Johnson in his UFC debut, where Volkov is still a long-range striker, and Volkov just straight up rushes at Johnson into the clinch, gets hit with an uppercut, almost gets knocked out, like really wanted to wrestle for whatever reason. I feel like Lewis is live because we know he has so much power. It's a high variance fight, and Volkov hasn't always fought the smartest.
Yeah, Volkov's fight IQ is suspect. But even then, he's
30-6, right? I mean, he is a top guy that is just maybe not flashy enough to get promoted. Honestly, with Lewis's back issues, he should handle Lewis quite easily, but you never know. I mean, he should actually take Lewis down. That's really what he should do. He should take him down.
I don't think he needs to.
I don't think he just jab, kick him in the head.
Yeah, you know what though? I grew up under the modus operandi of work smart, not hard. So if you could achieve the same result by taking him down and not subjecting yourself to any of Lewis's counters,
by not getting into not getting in the range where he can take you down, you're not getting into his clinch game either, where then Lewis can actually do something.
Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, otherwise, you never know how one of those, pitter-patter type of fights are going to get scored, So I would definitely take him down, grind him out, maybe finish him. Lewis's back goes into all kinds of spasms, and, just get a late finish maybe.
Call me crazy, but I don't hate Turner at 6.8K.
Wow.
I would never recommend someone who is this.
I didn't want to say it. That was.
I would never recommend. The last time I recommended someone like this was Henry Cejudo. Obviously, that worked out, and I don't think Turner's going to go out there and like win necessarily. But if we're looking at an ownership perspective, there's only going to be, with 12 fights, there's only going to be a handful of fighters who are very low owned, and I think Turner's one of them. And he's not like that bad. Like, he's a decent range striker, and so. Is Luque dangerous on the feet? Yes. Is Luque dangerous on the ground? Yes. Luque should be the favorite, but I don't know. Like, something about Turner, I feel like he could be live if the right kind of fight works out for him. What'd you say?
What does Turner do his camp? Okay, adrenaline. I never heard of it.
He's got like a solid first round in him to give it a shot and see if he can.
Michael Bisping said he was his main sparring partner for his fights against Anderson Silva and against Luke Rockhold.
Wow!
So he's a long range striker. He won on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. My guess is he's still very raw, and Luque should be able to take advantage of that. But
he's got talent.
I prefer him over Anthony Pettis because I don't really know what Anthony Pettis has to offer, and I expect Anthony Pettis to be much higher owned. You know, this is just, we're just talking dumpster diving here. This is not someone I'd play in 20% of my lineups. If you're trying to win 100K, maybe you take a look at him. What?
20% might not be the worst. You're trying to win 100K.
Yeah.
I'll take that one on my own. You don't got to be associated with that one.
Yeah, I certainly won't be 20% on him. All right. What else? What else do you guys want to talk about? Anything we haven't mentioned?
Any questions?
There
was. I just lost. Actually, I want to talk about Maynard Lentz a little bit here.
All right, go for it.
I want to ask you guys, what's your opinion? I feel like Maynard can maybe just wrestle hump him.
I think it's very risky with having Lentz that big a favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no way.
I mean, we saw, Brett, you and I were at the fight with Ishitara.
Yeah.
And he looked good in that fight, but we found out that Ishitara can't defend a takedown.
I mean,
and Lentz just likes to go to the ground. So
the thing is, I don't trust Maynard at all. Not only is he still questionable durability-wise, if like Lentz were to knock him out, I really wouldn't be shocked. Lentz always goes for a guillotine, so if Maynard's trying to land takedowns, and that's another path for Maynard to get finished. However, I mean, Lentz is not a very good fighter, and I think Maynard, considering his only real path to victory is to get the fight down, Lentz defends at a rate of 44%, mostly because he's like, you're going to attempt a takedown? I'll attempt a guillotine. I think we could see Maynard in top position, and he might be able to squeak out 2 rounds. Yeah, Maynard has like no upside in the he's not going to finish Lentz. not a guy I would be heavy on, but I would definitely consider Maynard as part of my exposure this weekend for sure.
I want to talk about that because you said there's no way he finishes it, but that might. I think there's plenty of worlds here where we get a 5-1 kind of night.
Really,
I think there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I guess like if Martin fails, then like
I think too. I mean, there's enough competitive fights that you have to think a couple.
You can think one sneaks through. Like there's plenty of worlds where I don't think that it happens. Like I don't know. I'd say 30% of the time, like all
30% of the time, you think only one underdog or less loses.
Yep. That can fit lineups. That can make it to the top score.
The problem, I mean, on this slate, I just feel like maybe all these underdogs. Maybe I don't have a ton of confidence in them, but I feel like there's a lot of live underdogs. Like,
well, look at Maynard. Okay, so the only time Maynard was ever submitted, it was in an exhibition bout, and you know who submitted him?
Who?
Nate Diaz. In an exhibition. So that's the only time Maynard has ever been.
Was that on Tough?
I don't know. It says exhibition bout, so I don't know. But I mean, that's because I wanted to look like how many times has Maynard been submitted. So yes, he's been finished by punches, but only one time was he actually submitted, and that was by Nate Diaz, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if Lentz, I guess I see this going more to decision.
We got a question. I don't know if I'm probably missed a ton of questions. Someone mentioned that you're most likely not going to be setting 150 lineups by hand. Can you give any insight into how you might go about creating 150 lineups?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of ways. One, give some props to RotoGrinders. They have a lineup optimizer that you could use that actually feeds into some data supplied by Mr. Apley. There's DFS Army has got a lineup optimizer. That's a subscription service. That's well worth the money. Again, I don't use the lineup optimizer so much for the projections data, which I essentially use my own. I use them more to generate and export lineups. There's another one that I'm not going to mention because The owner is a real douche.
The owner, that's the one I use too, and I can't bring myself to advertise his product for him.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to rent. But there are lineup optimizers. Look, in the beginning, I used to do everything by hand. I'll be honest. I used to do all my lineups by hand. Now, it's only recently, really, I'd say the last 5 or 6 months where I was, max entering 150 lineups. And you're right, you can't do that by hand. So I would recommend either, you use the Rotor Grinders lineup optimizer, or you use the, you subscribe to DFS Army and use the DFS Army lineup optimizer. They're the only 2 ones that I'm aware of. Guru Elite actually.
Their options are terrible.
Well, no, that's actually Fantasy Cruncher's lineup optimizer. They sublease it, and you can only do a max of 25 lineups.
Yeah, that's why I can't. It makes me mad.
Yeah, so yeah,
I love lineups, and I've tried using theirs just because.
Yeah.
But so I'll explain the process more of setting up the lineups for what you're doing is you're setting ownerships. You're not really like. I don't know what else to say. Like you're just kind of setting the ownerships you want.
The percentages.
You're just you're setting and then until you're comfortable with what you got, and then can just spit out the exact amounts you want. I mean,
and so Vert, like how many right off the top? How many? Let's say on an average 12 fight card, how many fighters would you, if you're playing 150 lineups, how many fighters would you X out completely?
I know I like to get down to around 13.
Wow.
So
I go very small.
So you're cutting out about half.
About a little. Sometimes a little higher, but like I like to go down to like 13, sometimes 14, 15. Like I'm never over 15.
And how many times are you 80% or higher on the single fighter?
At least half.
Okay.
At least half.
And I do it completely differently. I mean, unless your name is Chase Sherman, I'm going to have exposure to all 24 fighters. I mean, again, it could be a matter of 1 or 2%, but I rarely go over 60 to 70% on any one fighter.
I kind of miss building my lineups by hand now around the topic. I used to when I used to only doing 30, I just build my hand.
Oh, it's time consuming as all hell, but I mean,
yeah. I can feel better about them, but then it's easier just to plug in.
Setting the percentages that's really what you're doing you're just assigning certain percentages, and honestly, on the first gyration or even the first couple gyrations, it might not work because you might not get the combinations you need.
It will take another solid hour and a half to get it all right.
Because I think people think lineup optimizer, right? They think it's just as simple as put the percentages in and click go, and you get 150 lineups. It doesn't work that way. More often than not, it's still gonna take you an hour or hours of time because the allocations are not going to be the way that you want them to be the first time. And honestly, you're going to have to make some concessions. Like you're never going to get the optimization that you want. Never, ever. Not when you're mass entering. So.
And how much? Let's look at these odds value plays again, but like the opposite, like Ryan LaFleur, who's much overpriced. You could say like Landsberg, who's overpriced. But like those types of fighters, are you
5% or less?
Are you ever specifically forcing in fighters like that, knowing that they're going to be underowned because they are overpriced?
Yes.
All right. What Santos was it that got knocked out by Branch?
Thiago.
Yeah. Oh, I was very heavy on Santos, and it was like a pick 'em almost, right? It was very close.
No, he was a pretty big favorite.
No.
Yeah, he was, dude. Yeah, he was.
Right, you got this.
I'm pretty sure he was a size.
Was like 7.4K or something like that.
Cash play because he was like 50% GPPs that night.
Yeah.
I mean, I can try and look it up real quick.
Ownership was nuts.
I can tell you that Branch was a very low price.
Yeah, Branch.
I want to say 7.4.
Santos was 8.9. I remember that.
Thiago Santos was minus 185.
It wasn't
open. Close minus 205.
And that was Atlantic City. I was actually at that fight.
And like Branch was like the obvious chalk of the card. I remember that.
I wish you would have told me because I would have.
I knew too. I didn't play it either, but everyone else did. So,
but I did have Branch. I was in it till the last fight. I was alive in the in the $8 because I was sitting there with Houdini, Drew, and he's like, Joe, I see that you're in it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of my David Branch hedge lineups that I put in there in the $8, and it didn't end up working out for me, but that was a good card.
Let's go back to my question a little bit. So like you're asking so the bad odds value, like you're saying, like how often you play them. I mean, that's just kind of more
like specifically because they're going to be under owned.
I mean, like there's time, like that's kind of where you just like if you get a good read on a fight, if you get a good read, you take your stand. Like if you don't care about like in GPPs, you're not as concerned, particularly with odds. You're doing a lot more off your reads, and you use odds as a secondary factor, whereas cash odds should be your first factor, and your reads your second factor.
All right.
Like, does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Well, and then also, actually, if you look at like Ryan LaFleur is that perfect guy that I don't think is going to be very highly owned. He's relatively high priced. There's major odds value in Tony Martin, but would it surprise anybody? Any of the three of us? Would we be surprised if Ryan LaFleur won? Absolutely not. Right?
I mean, I still think he's likely to win.
Yeah, Ryan LaFleur again. Now you heard the Sean Shelby narrative, right? He told Ryan LaFleur and Tony Martin. He said, "You guys are the two most boring fighters on the card in the UFC, and you're fighting each other."
Wait, did you really say this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He absolutely said this. He said, "You guys are the two most boring fighters on the card." So now. Again, I heard that it definitely affected Tony Martin. I don't know how it affected Ryan LaFleur. If Martin's going to take some chances, try to be a little bit more exciting. But you all know LaFleur's game, right? It's going to be wrestling heavy. Martin has got better striking. He's got good jits. Throw up some subs. But, LaFleur is the power wrestler. So
and the only fight we haven't really talked about on this card does feature quite a bit of wrestling, and that's Alan Patrick and Scott Holtzman. You guys have any interest in Holtzman in this fight?
Not much, and I'll tell you why. Because I agree that Holtzman's a tough guy, and Holtzman's got a good deal of cardio, but Holtzman's primarily skill is being able to get up after he gets taken down. I mean, that seems to be his skill. Like a rinse and repeat takedown artist. Like if you look at what was it, Emmett? How many times did Emmett take him?
8 times.
Yeah. Well, so look at Patrick, who's like Emmett isn't really a wrestler. I mean, Patrick is a solid hardcore takedown guy. So to me, unless Holtzman stepped up and I bought into Holtzman a couple of fights ago, when he looked really good, he looked ripped. And he's been in the UFC for a while. I don't have a ton of interest in Holtzman. And I think Patrick is going to go. It's going to be relatively low owned.
Go ahead.
You got a little bit of Holtzman?
No, a little bit of interest in Patrick.
Yeah, of course.
I have a good amount of interest in Patrick and a little bit of Holtzman.
Go under own too.
The thing about Patrick's game is he's either going to land a ton of takedowns or he's going to lose. I don't see a path where he lands 2 takedowns and wins. And the difference between Emmett and Patrick is Emmett actually has a striking game too, whereas Patrick really does not. So my concern for Patrick in this fight would be that just like every other fight, Patrick gets a lot of takedowns, and just like Holtzman's done in the past, he just gets right back up. But then does that lead into just many more takedowns, or does that lead into maybe Holtzman starts having success on the feet? So I think it's going to be a high-action fight. I'm not sold on my read yet, but I definitely am interested in it because I feel like the winner should score fairly well.
And I think because of his price, I think he's going to be under-owned. Patrick.
See, I don't know because he's done pretty well for people.
Yeah, but again, I don't know that a casual is going to know who the fuck Patrick is. I mean, he doesn't fight often enough. He's not on high-profile cards. I don't know that if you're casual is going to know who Patrick or Holtzman is.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you more casuals would have known who Sean O'Malley was because there's more recency.
Yeah, I wish O'Malley got the fight because I was going to be off.
Well, a lot of people were really pissed about not Quinones. I was reading some tweets. It's like, man, Quinones was my top dog. I mean, I wanted to really play Quinones.
See how well Sean can wrestle.
I mean, have the UFC officially canceled that fight yet, though?
Yeah, no.
Well, it's Wednesday.
What?
I mean, it's Wednesday.
I know, but I mean, did they is it canceled on DraftKings?
Yeah, he's not on the he's not on the schedule anymore.
Okay, and they didn't even try to get Cannonier as a replacement. They're just going to go with the 12. So it's the fight.
Yeah.
We're definitely at 12. Let's really hope we don't lose another fight, because that would be a disaster for DraftKings. And the last thing I want to say about DraftKings is, and I know this is a big ask for a lot of people, but do not overlook the $150 triangle. That's a 10 entry contest with a $15,000 first prize.
15 this week. It's 22.50. 22.50 a max enter it.
That's going to be the highest. That's the highest triangle we've ever had.
Yep.
That's a good contest.
Don't overlook that contest, because everybody is going to be in on the 10. Don't overlook the 4. I mean, that's $3,000. I mean, there's a lot of contests. Like the dollar is a 1.5K. There's just a lot of money out there, and people generally can't play everything.
And I've had a couple people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm going big this on this card this week," and that's fine. Like, it's always fine to take like some shots, but just make sure you're still gambling within your means. Like you are not you're just not any more likely to crush this card as any other card, and so
True.
Always understand that the money you're putting in, you can potentially lose. With that said, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Wish you guys the best of luck. It would be amazing if someone were to win the 100K.
Yeah.
Joe, any final words here? What else you got going on this week?
No, man, we got the RotoWire pod, myself, DFS Sniper, who just finished 5th in the NASCAR Live final.
That was fun.
He was actually in 2nd place up until the lap before. I guess the next to last lap, Jimmy Johnson took out, who was it, Truex?
No.
And, it was a $23,000 difference. So I immediately sent Sean, DFS Sniper, a Jimmy Johnson voodoo doll. So I'm on that with Jimmy Johnson, the real Chris Olsen, and myself and Sean are going to do that RotoWire pod. And, we have a lot of fun doing that breakdown pod. I thought there was a slight chance I might actually get a soundbite on SiriusXM this week. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but there was an outside chance of that happening. RotoWire does buy a lot of time on Sirius, but unless if I do, that'll be kind of a last-minute thing for RotoWire. So I got my fingers crossed. I will obviously let everybody know via Twitter. I don't do Instagram. I'm not a big active Facebook user, so at Sun Tzu on Twitter is where I'm at. Follow me, don't follow me. I'm never one to plead for followers. Unless you're Tatiana Suarez, who followed me. Thankfully.
Oh yeah, I looked at that. She followed me too.
I love that. I love that.
I was like, all right, I'll take it.
And I actually got a couple likes. I got a like from Paul Gonzalez too. So it always seems to be the attractive fighters that I get likes from. I wonder why that is. So that's pretty much it, man.
All right, Vert, thanks for coming on again. Any final words from you?
Permanent free agent. Never, ever being paid to do this stuff. I just like to make money on my own. So
we
follow me on
appreciate
Twitter if you want. I have fun doing it. I don't really talk much fights to my personal life. So
we appreciate you coming on. Yeah, you can follow him at Luke_Gowans. He's in the link on Twitter that I sent out. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to this channel, like the video. It helps a lot. If you want the full breakdowns, rankings, all that stuff, this is the week to buy MMA Premium. If there's any week, I'm putting as much possible content out as I can. There's going to be a Contrarian Corner article that I post on Friday.
Wow.
Specifically targeting the 100K tournament.
Awesome. I can't wait for that.
I know a lot of us hang out and chat too, like most of Friday night and all Saturday. So if you got questions, you want to get our real answers? I always give I give my full best answer I can for Brett. So helping him out. So I mean, I can.
I appreciate that. And there's a couple, I think I said from 3 to 5 p.m. on Friday is going to be an official chat time where I'll just be hanging out in there. And then officially 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific before the fight start on Saturday. But then a bunch of other guys are going to be in there probably during the fights. And that'll be fun. So
that's great.
Guys. And we will see you in a few weeks. Peace.
Sounds good.